My name is Taryn Torborg. My address is 5216 Lakeview Avenue, White Bear Lake, Minnesota. I graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Madison in 2015 with a bachelor's degree in Human Development and Family Studies, as well as Spanish and a certificate in Global Health. After graduation, I knew I wanted to be a child life specialist, but I didn't have any experience working with children in a hospital setting, so I decided to serve 2 years as an AmeriCorps volunteer in a Head Start preschool in Winona, Minnesota. During those 2 years, I volunteered at the Mayo Clinic to gain experience working with kids in a hospital setting. And after finishing my AmeriCorps service, I decided to pursue my master's degree. And so I am in the process of getting my master's in family and human development with a child life specialization through Arizona State University. This past summer, I also completed a practicum at the Children's Hospital at Greenville Health System in Greenville, South Carolina. Currently, I am a nanny for a family with 3 beautiful little girls under the age of 5, and so I am recording this video from their dining room, and all the girls are napping, and so hopefully they won't wake up. So when I need to relax, I really enjoy reading, going for a walk, a run, or getting some sort of physical exercise, and spending time with family and friends. For the second question, do you consider yourself successful? I do consider myself successful. I think that for me, being successful means knowing that I gave 100% of my best effort. So far, I consider graduating with my bachelor's degree a success because I value education. I consider my time spent serving with AmeriCorps a success because I value service to others. But even though I think that I've been successful up to this point, that doesn't mean that I've learned all that I need to learn or that I can stop trying. I think that there's always room for improvement, and I can always set higher goals and push myself to achieve more. And so just because I think that what I've done up till now has been a success doesn't mean that I can't stop giving my best effort in everything that I do. So for the third question, one memorable experience that I had with a child was during my practicum. So my preceptor and I were going to do a medical play activity in the playroom. So each child got a little patient doll, and they got a little bag with their doctor's supplies in it. So there was things such as alcohol swabs and medicine cup, cotton balls, syringes, a tourniquet, a face mask, IV tubing, Band-Aids, gauze. I think that's it. But staff also had the same supplies, and we were encouraged to kind of play with the children who came to the activity that day. And so I was sitting at the table, and there was a little boy sitting next to me, and he was using the syringe and stabbing it into his patient's stomach. And so I didn't say anything to him. I just kind of observed him for a while, and then I took my syringe and my medicine cup, and I just started using it correctly. So I used the syringe to draw pretend medicine out of the medicine cup and give it to my patient. And I noticed that the boy was kind of watching me doing this, and then I kind of continued checking out my patient, taking his temperature, that kind of thing, but I was paying attention to this boy because then he started using his syringe the way that I was. And so this situation reminded me of the observational learning theory by the theorist Albert Bandura. And so in the observational learning theory, there are 4 components. So the 4 components are attentional processes, retention processes, motor reproduction processes, and reinforcement and motivational processes. So since I was sitting right next to the boy, he was able to pay attention to what I was doing, and I saw him looking at me, and he was paying attention to what I was doing. So that's the first component. The second component was that I used the tools correctly, and then I moved on to the next activity. And so the boy was able to notice me do it and retain that information on what he observed, even though I had already moved on. So that's the second component. The third component is that the boy had the necessary motor skills to reproduce the actions that I was doing and use the syringe correctly. And finally, I gave him positive reinforcement when I noticed him using it correctly by saying, "I like how you're using that syringe. That's great work, doctor. You're going to make your patient feel better in no time." And so he did it again. And according to social learning theory, that would be, according to observational learning theory, that would be putting on a performance. For question number 4, what philosophy guides your approach to as a child life student? I would say that my philosophy is to just learn as much as I can. Even though I have had many great experiences in my practicum, I know that I have not even observed probably half of what a child life specialist does on a day-to-day basis or what they are capable of doing. And so as a student, it's my job to learn from child life specialists who have more experience than I do. So if that means staying later in order to observe a potential procedure or intervention that a child life specialist may be doing, then I'm staying late. If that means researching new interventions or strategies or creative activities in my free time, then that's what needs to be done and I will do it. But being a student is such a privilege because I can ask questions and receive feedback that will help me in the future. And I can just gain advice and experience from people who have been doing this longer than I have, who have more experience than I have. And so I think learning as much as I can is my philosophy as a child life student. So question number 6, describe your ideal supervisor. My ideal supervisor will be someone who will give me feedback. I really thrive off of feedback and can take constructive feedback into future practices. So I keep it in the back of my mind so that next time I'm doing the same activity, I remember what I was told and I kind of try to incorporate that in my practices. So my ideal supervisor would first allow me to observe, and they would tell me what they're doing as they're doing it and kind of describe their thought processes to me. And it doesn't have to be as they're doing it. It could be after the fact. I just like knowing why they chose to do what they did and why, their thought process behind their whole intervention or strategy or activity. Next, I would like a supervisor to allow me to get a little bit more hands-on while they're directly supervising me. So maybe that means they're coaching me and, giving me advice as I'm doing something or just letting me do it with their direct supervision. And then finally, allowing me to be a little bit more independent and, do the interventions and then have them observing me. And then after the fact, talking about how it went, what I could have done better, that kind of thing. I think having time to be independent and do interventions independently is very important as a student, especially when you're nearing the end of your internship, because pretty soon you're going to be a child life specialist and you're going to be having to do these things by yourself. And so it would really boost my confidence in my abilities and my knowledge. And finally, my ideal supervisor would challenge me to think about my thought process so that I don't get kind of into a routine where I'm just doing things and not really thinking about it. I want to always be intentional about my strategies, my interventions, why I'm doing the things I do. And I want a supervisor to challenge me and ask me hard questions and really make me think about what I'm doing so that I can be the best child life student and future child life specialist that I can be. And so the final question about describing steps you would take if you witness a staff member treating a patient or family member differently based on their culture. If I witness a staff member treating a patient or a family member differently based on their culture, I think that it would be very important for me to address it with them directly and as soon as I could. I wouldn't bring it up in front of the patient or the family member because I wouldn't want to make that patient or the family member uncomfortable or make them feel like they need to apologize for something that they don't need to apologize for. And so I would bring it up with that staff member either in private or, in the staff break room or in the office, wherever, away from patients and family members. I would also be polite and respectful and just communicate to them what I saw and why it bothered me. I wouldn't want to place any blame or make the conflict a bigger deal than it needs to be. Just telling them how I felt and why I felt uncomfortable, and maybe even give them suggestions for something that they could do in the future. If they don't respond to my conversation well, or if they don't change in the future and I notice it again, then maybe I would bring it up to a supervisor and the three of us could have a discussion, or talk about hospital policy, that kind of thing. But first I would communicate with them directly before getting a third party involved, because I don't want it to escalate or get into a bigger deal than it needs to be. But I would address it directly and as soon as possible. And I really think that this type of advocacy is definitely a priority for child life specialists. Child life specialists are people that patients and families should feel comfortable talking to. And if they don't see us acting appropriately or advocating for them, then they might not feel comfortable coming to talk to us and expressing their concerns or asking for help or asking questions. Or even utilizing our services. And so I think it is a priority for child life specialists, but I truly think that should be a priority for everybody. Advocating for patients is not just a child life specialist job. It's not just a nurse's job. It's everybody's job. I believe that every person deserves the same amount of respect and courtesy and dignity, no matter what their culture or race or how they identify. And so it's really everybody's responsibility to advocate for those who aren't receiving the respect that they deserve. We want patients and families to feel comfortable at our hospital and to feel satisfied with the service that they got, or they're, satisfied with our hospital in general. And if we are not being respectful and treating everybody the same, then they won't feel satisfied. They won't come back to the hospital. They won't utilize their services, and we don't want that. And so I think that is all of the questions. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to me and watch this video. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. My phone number and my email address are on my resume that I turned in with my application. And yeah, I just want to thank you again, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks.